April 4th, 2025. This is the Democrats Abroad Veterans and Military Families Caucus. And welcome to our podcast series. This month, we spoke with Jermaine Collins, a lead organizer with the 200,000 member strong organization known as Common Defense. We asked Jermaine about what Common Defense does, who they're fighting for, and what issues are on their radar. Have a listen to hear our conversation with him. On the call were myself, Michael Ramos. I'm the current chair of the Global VMF Caucus. I'm also an Illinois voter living in Australia. We also had VMF Caucus Vice Chair, Key Evans, who's a New Mexico voter living in Guatemala. And finally, we had Anna Marie Matson, a Texas voter living in France and the chair of the Democrats Abroad France VMF Caucus. So we're going to take a brief 30-second break before we dig right into it. Stick around, and we hope you enjoy the conversation.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. If you're having a tough time or thinking about suicide, you're not alone, and there's hope. VA's Veterans Crisis Line has responders who listen and help. Many are veterans or have veteran family members and friends, so they're prepared to address your challenges. Don't wait. Dial 988, then press 1.
Hey. All right, we got a special guest with us today, talking to the Democrats Abroad Veterans and Military Families Caucus. We have Jermaine Collins with Common Defense. I believe they describe themselves as progressive and supportive of our veterans and military connected community. Absolutely part of the resistance for many of the illegal actions and unethical behavior of this current administration and a lot of congressional Republicans as well. Anyway, I'm going to throw it over to Jermaine. If you could introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you? What does Common Defense do? All that good stuff. Love to hear from you.
Appreciate it, Michael. My name is Jermaine Collins. I'm the lead national team organizer with Common Defense. I actually live here in DC, so that's just where I'm located. But we have members and staff all around the United States, members in literally all 50 states, plus, random places around the world. But I guess a little bit about Common Defense in general. So yes, we're definitely progressive, but our politics aren't, restricted outside of that. We handle a bunch of different issues, climate justice, ending the forever wars, and of course, pushing back against this administration, pushing back against DOGE, protecting our benefits, and protecting the VA is the big thing right now. So we're handling a bunch of things. A little bit about me personally. I'm an Army veteran. I spent 10 years in the Ohio Army National Guard with one deployment to Afghanistan. I got out in 2019 and here living in DC and doing a little organizing since.
Outstanding. Yeah, we appreciate that. You guys kind of remind me of a couple different groups that are out there, some, big organizations that are doing some similar things. So I'm glad to see that, I guess Common Defense is part of the coalition, if you will, trying to protect veterans' benefits and so forth. Anna Marie, let me throw it over to you.
Well, I wanted to discuss Pershing Hall and the benefits and and what the veterans here, especially in Europe, are not getting as far as what they're entitled to, because we're talking about what's going on here in Europe with something that's been promised to veterans and that they're not getting.
I don't think Jermaine's probably familiar with this, but go ahead. You want to break it down?
Okay, yeah. Well, Jermaine, I don't know if you've been to Paris, but a lot of people go when they come to France, they go straight to Normandy, or if they're a Marine, they go to the Mecca, the Marine Mecca in Bellewood. But during World War I, especially, if you remember our history, the World War I veterans stayed on, a lot of them, a long time after the war was over. They weren't really sure if if the Germans were going to stop fighting, or if the armistice was really going to work. So our U.S. Soldiers, and I'm talking about two of my uncles, I have two great uncles who fought in World War I. There was a lot of soldiers that stayed over, and it was also hard getting them back to the States quickly. So So what do these soldiers do while they're here in France is they create the American Legion, and which is now the largest veterans organization in the world. It was created in Paris. And so what happened after a while? They kept it kept moving forward, and they bought a building in what is called now Paris, the Golden Triangle, which is a prime real estate of this whole country, which is right next to the Champs-Élysées. And they bought a four-story building, and then they renovated it, and they was always being used for veterans, for the USO, they had it was like a post. I mean, and they would have banquets, and they were really doing a lot of services, catering to the veterans. It was also called sort of like the U.S. Public sort of people's house. It was where people would go. Called it also the second embassy. So everything was fine. They purchased this building in 1927, but then the Depression hit. And what happened was that they were running out of money because they had spent a lot on renovations. And so they contacted the U.S. government and convinced them, okay, well, take over the mortgage. And they used the funds to buy the building from Stars and Stripes. So it was basically soldiers paying for the building. They said, okay, you've got the money, you've got this money in the Stars and Stripes fund, just use that to, buy this building, and you will be the custodian. But we are the beneficiaries. We of the veterans, and especially the American Legion, are the beneficiaries. Well, everything was fine. Okay. It continued as a USO, and all of these American organizations, and the American Legion had their post in there, and then the VFW had their post, and then all of a sudden, in 1992, this is after all these years, 50, whatever you can, the government decides to give the management of this building to the VA. Before it was being run by another fund, and all of a sudden, the VA decides to kick everybody out, to evict everybody, and they signed a 99-year lease with this company without any solicitation, without asking for any bids, like to the Marriott or to the Hilton or to any of our not really nice American hotel chains. They gave it to these two individuals who had created a company for 25,000 euros. I'm talking about, this building is now worth 80 million. Anyway, in 1992, they gave a 99-year lease. They signed a 99-year lease with two individuals, and they turned Pershing Hall into a luxurious hotel. Of course, everybody was kicked out. American Legion, there was a collection of memorabilia, which is worth now millions of dollars. And so the veterans started fighting back. And so finally, we're getting some traction, and we're trying to get the building back for the American Legion. The top floor is vacant where we can use it. But what they did with this hotel was these two guys tried to buy the building, and Congress said, no, you cannot buy that building. This is a memorial. This is just as much of as a memorial as Arlington Cemetery. So these two guys said, okay, well, we can't buy the building. They're going to make a chain of Pershing Hall hotels all over Europe. So they signed the lease over to another company who has changed this building now into luxurious office space and a shoe store, Kith Shoe Store. It is disgraceful. You walk into this building, which is for the veterans, and all you see are these sneakers hanging from the ceiling. And so anyway, what we're really fighting to get that back. And there's also oversight. We've gone to the oversight committee in Washington, because there's like $4 million in this fund, because these people keep paying rent. And the rent goes to the VA. The VA has a revolving fund. Anyway, it's a long process, and we're trying to get it back. And Michael Ramos had a great idea, because he was here in Paris, and he said this building should be turned into a hotel for disabled veterans. For them to come over here, this building belongs to veterans, and to turn this into R&R, and let's treat our veterans. And Landstuhl Military Hospital is only 4 hours away. You've got this whole big community here in Europe. So the idea would be to take this building back for us.
let me just jump in real quick because I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So Jermaine, just to let you know, like kind of where we stand right now is,
Mm.
the veterans community, especially those who are living abroad, are constantly fighting the VA and trying to get Congress to, raise more awareness of this scandal that's happening. We have this building in Paris, right? Just to summarize, the
Mhm.
original congressional intent was for this to be for veterans purposes
Right.
all the way from the early part of the 20th century until today. But the VA has allowed all of these, foreign luxury companies to set up shop and kick out all the veterans. And this is just an issue that's, Anna Marie's right. It's a scandal. I've been there and I saw it myself. I don't know if Common Defense's membership expands, through Paris, but, certainly, I'm a member and I'm in Australia. So I'd have to think that there's a lot of veterans who do care about this.
Mhm.
But anyway, we just wanted to put this on your radar because, if Common Defense wants to, I guess, take a position on, some issues that happen overseas, well, this is a good one because it's ran by the VA. And what
Mhm.
that means is that we as American citizens and constituents, we have a right to voice our opinion on it. But the VA refuses to even talk about it with the general public. That's why if you search their website, you won't find anything. So anyway, yeah, thank you, Anna Marie,
Yeah.
for bringing that up. Just looking at the time, I want to keep going to some different issues to make sure that we're talking about some things that perhaps are a little closer to home that you can speak on. But we just wanted to make you aware of that situation.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and I was not aware of that. So that's good to know. And these are the types of things, these are the type of fights that like people like myself who I live in the US, I've traveled abroad, I've never really like lived abroad. So that's good to know that like other veterans who are living in other places are dealing with stuff. But in regard to the VA, and like we're all veterans, we've all used the VA at one point or another. We all know that the VA is not perfect. I don't think
Right.
any I don't think there's a single veteran out there who's going to pretend like, oh yeah, the VA's got this perfect service, and every time I go in, everything's exactly the way I wanted, and the process was amazing from start to finish. But right now, the VA is under threat. It is under attack by Doge. It is under attack by Donald Trump. Just that announcement a few weeks back of them firing 83,000 employees of the VA, that cripples the VA. And the VA might not be a perfect system. It may not be a perfect department, but getting rid of that has an end result. And I mean, just to cut through the fat here, because there's a lot of people who depend on the VA. There's a lot of veterans who depend on the VA, regardless of how imperfect it is. By crippling the VA, by firing those employees, by getting rid of those jobs, veterans will die. Straight up, that's a fact. Veterans will die when you take away access to that system that we have right now, because that's the idea, is taking away that system. So I know Common Defense,
Absolutely.
yeah, we're fighting to protect the VA. We're fighting to protect veterans benefits, and we're fighting to make sure that the VA is not privatized. So we don't have individuals who are making decisions outside of what we get to say as far as like elected officials and all of that. Like we don't want a private entity to tell me, oh hey, you're denied coverage because you have XYZ. Like I'm hearing that we're pushing towards death panels in the VA, and that's not something anybody wants. Nobody wants death panels. Nobody wants a private system that denies people coverage. We want the VA intact the way it is now, so we can improve on it and we can make it better than what it is now. But that's about how much
Yeah.
I can speak to.
Yeah, I remember in the days, it wasn't that long ago, before Obamacare, right? When people were getting denied left and right for, a pre-existing coverage condition. But then, the fallback where you could get your health care was the VA. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's possible that might not be a safe place anymore to get your non-service connected disabilities covered. So, healthcare is just absolutely huge. Anyway, when you brought up the VA, which reminds me, I think I saw somewhere. Are you guys doing a campaign right now, or you're collecting, stories from the public on, hey, have you been affected, or are you a federal employee or something like that? Could you touch on that campaign?
Yeah, so we're currently running the Save the VA campaign. We're talking to our members, we're talking to veterans all across the board, and trying to get those stories. I know I personally have talked to a lot of our different members just within my organizing, and heard some real heartwarming stories and heart wrenching stories. To be honest, the VA does save lives. It helps so many of us, and it keeps us. It keeps us. It gives us the ability to have our needs taken care of. Whether regardless of your disability rating, regardless of what issues you have. I mean, I know just the PACT Act alone helps a lot of veterans who dealt with things like I did. You know, if you've ever deployed to, especially like Iraq, but if you've ever deployed to Afghanistan, if you're in one of the areas where they use burn pits, that was a serious thing. That was a serious thing that hadn't been covered in the past. The health issues that come with breathing in that smoke. I remember when I was in Afghanistan, like just the base I was in, it was funny because I hadn't realized it until I ended up on one of the night shifts working tower duty. And I was sitting in a tower, and you could see like the camp that was right next to us. You could just see the smoke coming from that burn pit coming right over top of our barracks. Like literally where our barracks were, that smoke was just flowing right over top of our barracks onto, the next hill over. And all of the people I deployed with, everyone who was in that camp, we'll deal with those issues for the rest of our lives, regardless of how mild or how extreme those issues are. I'm lucky enough to be a person who doesn't have asthma. I don't really have respiratory issues. I stay in shape. I'm not what everybody else is. I don't have I don't have those issues that can be inflated by breathing in that smoke. That's not to say I won't have issues in the future, but the PACT Act allows us to actually go to the VA to get our disability rating adjusted because of that. So yeah, we're running this campaign. We're doing our damnedest to save the VA. That's should be on everyone's radar. And yeah, if anybody has stories that they would like to share, I would love to hear your story. We would love to boost that story and get regular people who may or may not be veterans on board on this, so they can help us protect our actual healthcare.
Absolutely. And before I throw it over to Key, I just want to touch on that real quick and just say, as a veteran myself who lives in Australia, I just got service connected like a month ago. And this is because of the PACT Act. So there's a story for you right there. Prior to the changes within the VA because of the PACT Act, I was not eligible to be service connected. And so now, that situation has changed and has opened up a lot of, benefits and possibilities for me. And I'm grateful. We will be right back with our discussion with Jermaine right after this quick break.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Women, were you exposed to toxic substances in the military? If so, you may be eligible for extra benefits and care under the PACT Act. The law benefits all veterans of the Vietnam, Gulf War, and post 9/11 eras once exposed to toxic fumes, burn pits, Agent Orange, radiation, and other environmental hazards. VA is aware that for women veterans, such exposure can lead to reproductive cancers like ovarian, cervical, uterine, breast, and others. Many women have served in the armed forces over the years. They shouldn't wait to file claims for all conditions outlined in the PACT Act. Learn more at va.gov/PACT or call 1-800-MY-VA-411.
But go ahead, Key. I'll throw it over to you.
Thank you, Michael, and welcome, Jermaine. We're so happy that you joined us today. I'm not a vet. I'm a family member, and I am concerned about all veteran and spouses and, all issues. But the issue I am deeply and emotionally concerned about are deported veterans. I don't know if you know, but it is estimated that there are somewhere between 70,000 and 95,000 veterans who have been deported. And now, with the current administration scooping up anyone they can pull out of a vehicle or anyone who happens to be working in a restaurant with illegal immigrants. Everybody's being swept up, and that includes some veterans. Now, I'm having to depend on what I can read in the media. So I only know of two in particular, one from New Jersey and one from Arizona. Neither have been deported yet, but they are definitely tied up in the court system. Deportation is entirely possible. Is this something that Common Defense is now working on or will work on in the hopefully very near future?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and unfortunately, Common Defense has been well aware that we've had deported veterans, and we've been doing the work to try to get those veterans returned here to the United States and have their get their citizenship. It's a ridiculous thing. I know there's a lot of people just in general, including a lot of veterans who once you hear like, oh yeah, blah, 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 deported veterans, they hear those word deported veterans and they're like, what do you even mean? How is that even possible? So what we've been doing in the past is we've been doing work to try to get the DOD and all the different branches to start that citizenship paperwork up as soon as somebody makes it through basic training. As soon as they finish their first day of basic training, they're doing the work. We start their paperwork and we make sure that they're able to make it to those hearings, make it to those meetings to actually get through the process at the beginning. Because unfortunately, that's what happens for a lot of veterans. A lot of people are pulled out of a community and they're given promises of U.S. citizenship. They go through the process. They go through basic training. They go on to their service station. They'll maybe do one or multiple deployments. And if that paperwork isn't done, if they're not notified of how that process is supposed to go, or even if they're going through that process, I know a veteran who lives out here in Virginia. She almost missed one of her hearings because she was on deployment in in Iraq. So had to go back to the United States to get to one of her appointments. Almost missed that appointment. Luckily for her, she had some leadership who was on her team who, made sure that she was able to get that leave. But not everybody is so lucky. So yes, we're well aware of the issue of deported veterans, and we've been doing that work with our allies. With that, that's another shocking thing from this administration. It's another ridiculous thing that they're doing in throwing out due process for undocumented people. And it's such a difficult thing to think about. It's such a difficult thing for, I know, me to personally reconcile with the fact that we took a bunch of undocumented folks, we put them on a plane and we flew them to another country to be sitting in another prison. And I can't imagine, because I don't actually know. I don't know how many veterans were mixed up in that. I know for a fact that there was a couple of people who just happened to have, I know there was that person who had a soccer team a tattoo who was scooped up in that. There was another person who was a barber who I believe they had a tattoo of a crown that said mom on it or something like that, and they were scooped up in that. And that's the thing, is this administration is reckless. This administration is they're throwing due process completely out the window, and they're just deporting people who came here for one reason or another. And that is the big thing about deported veterans, is that once they're outside the United States, it's so difficult to get them back in, let alone this administration have shown that they have the willingness to take those people and put them in the custody of another country where we can't get them back. I don't know, and this administration doesn't know how we can get those people back from, I believe it was El Salvador. They don't know how to get them back. And so this is another thing that we're fighting this administration on. We're fighting them on every front, because this is, and I think we shouldn't be afraid to say this word anymore, this is fascism. This is how that works. This is how they install that. They get rid of due process. They start treating civilians, people who are owed due process by the system, they start treating them like strangers, like people who don't deserve anything, and they do whatever they want. So we need to push back against that, and we need to repatriate our brothers and sisters who signed up same as we did, who took the oath same as we did, who did their service, who did their time, and who are owed citizenship here in this country that they fought for. So yeah, sorry, that's deported veterans is an issue like that's deep in my heart.
Yeah,
and
and my understanding of the legal definition of deportation is to be returned to your home country. So these people aren't even really deported. They are just detained in El Salvador, Costa Rica, Panama. I think we may have some here in Guatemala. Mostly it seems that it's Guatemalans that are coming back here. But I really appreciate your clear and concise answer. And thank you so much for working for our deported and detained veterans. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And one last thing I'll say about it is here over in Common Defense, we handle a ton of different issues. We're a large community. There's 300,000 members total, worldwide. 40,000 of those are veterans. So we have veterans, we have veteran family members, we have allies who all come together under our banner. With that, we have different caucuses. Like one of the caucuses I'm involved in, the Latino Veterans Caucus. That is our main issue of deported veterans. That's the issue we're trying to tackle. So, would love to have that conversation and see how we can get people involved and join up in the fight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jermaine. I'm going to throw it over to Anna Marie for one last question here before we wrap up. Go ahead, Anna Marie.
One question I have is, we hear about and since your Army, that there's a big recruiting problem right now. There's like 51,000 down, and then how? So I don't know if that's even an issue for your, but is that being considered at all, that, we're having a problem even recruiting people to join the Army, especially. And so what does that mean then? We're going to go to the National Guard. I was working in Landstuhl. I was going up there once a month, and there was the National Guard, and they had not signed up to go to Iraq and Afghanistan. They were just sent there because there weren't enough soldiers in the Army and everywhere else to go to Afghanistan and Iraq. So that's one of my questions. And the other question I think is on a lot of people's minds is that, what are you doing about the midterms? I mean, what can we do to like, we were so happy that the Senate was able to, at least for Canada, the zero tariffs. I was thinking, well, why didn't they go for more countries, instead of just Canada? Because this is creating chaos all over the world. So the idea is, what are you doing for the midterms? Or getting more people on that are the Democrats, to get them more into power. What can we do? Are they veterans, or how are you? What's your strategy for the midterm? So those are kind of like my two questions.
These are great questions. So to answer the first one, as far as the recruiting issue, that's not necessarily something that Common Defense as a whole has that's not an issue that we're trying to tackle. We are more so embedded in the issues of climate justice, ending forever wars, actually making sure our government functions, and defeating fascism. But that is, I know for me personally, that's an issue because I was in the National Guard when I deployed to Afghanistan. The National Guard, amazing, love the National Guard. I can't say anything any more positive things, but that is kind of what we result to, because we are in a recruiting crisis, and the recruiting crisis is a result of so many different things. It's a way broader issue, and all I can really say about it is the recruiting crisis, the issue of getting recruits to sign up is not helped by an administration that acts the way this administration is acting. You don't win allies by beating your chest and by threatening other countries and by making fools of those who serve under you, by trying to get rid of DEIA programs that create a little bit of equity for those who are in groups who haven't had that in the past. That's exactly how you get less people to sign up, less people to actually join the cause. So that's all I can really say about that piece. So I'll say Common Defense, we have a C3, C4, a PACT, and an education fund. So some of the work that we do is endorsements. We endorse progressive candidates. Hopefully they're veterans. If not veterans, at least those who are more progressive and who want to see us progress as a country. That's a good portion of our work that, we're lucky enough to be involved in. Along with that, I think there's a broader idea of kind of gaining power for those who want to see some progress. Gaining power not only to fight against fascism, but those who, if only based on their own complicity, are adding to the damages that the Trump administration is doing, that I guess President Elon Musk is doing, that type of stuff. So we encourage our members to go out and be active, to be part of this process. If there are local elections going on around you, go out, vote. That's an obvious thing. But what people tend to forget about is there are local town halls that you can be attending. There are local parties that you can be joining. There are local organizations that you can be joining as well, and gaining power for the more progressive side. And I know I keep saying the word progressive. I am personally a progressive, but this isn't just a partisan thing. This isn't just for progressive Democrats. This is for people who don't want to see, I don't know if I can swear on here, but the people who don't want to see a lot of BS. There are so many Republicans, so many former Trump voters who are going to these town hall hearings, and you saw the Republicans stop doing them because they showed up and they were angry, and they were angry for a good reason, and they voiced those opinions. These guys in power right now, they don't care about you. They are siding with Donald Trump, and they're making these decisions that make regular people's lives harder. And what they want to do is they want to throw as many things at the wall as possible. They want to stress us out enough and get us to walk away from the process so they can sell our country and sell our democracy for scraps. No, don't do that. Don't step away. Don't disengage. Engage more. Join a local community, join a local organization, get out there, talk to your Congress people, talk to your senators, hold hands with your neighbors, and join the fight. That's all I can really say about that. But as far as the elections, yes, there are, I know there are groups within not only our group who does endorsements nationally, but I know there are groups within Illinois Vets for Change, who endorse candidates who are on the more progressive side, who care about their community, who aren't just going to throw people under the bus because Daddy Trump said so. So I think that being part of the process is the most important part. Showing that power is the most important part, and not conceding that power to them. We have the people. We have the people power. It's time to show that.
And one thing we always talk about, and I just want to mention, and I'm sure that you're really on this, is the messaging. The messaging has to get to the people and not just using labels.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Thank you, Jermaine. And thank you, Anna Marie and Michael. And if there are no further questions, we can wrap this up and let Jermaine get back to work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Great. Thanks, everyone. That was our discussion with Jermaine Collins, who's a lead organizer with Common Defense. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and hopefully we'll have a new VMF Caucus episode soon for you to listen to. Thanks for tuning in.
In your heart, silver wings on your chest. I'm gonna be